Hello, welcome back to the channel and episode 4 of Stop Bluesing All Wrong. This time we're going to look at yet another way of approaching those pesky blues changes. Let's get stuck in. Another effective approach to negotiating blues changes is to use arpeggios. Now, on the guitar there's all manner of different ways of playing arpeggios, some of which are not really appropriate for playing a blues, namely sweep picking, so we're not going to be doing those. But what we are two-note, two-string arpeggios. And as the name would suggest, you've got a 4-note chord stroke arpeggio, and you're going to play 2 notes on one string and then the other 2 notes on the next. And they're very nice because they join up with things that we've been looking at. Now, for each chord type, you're going to have 4 different inversions, 2 of which are quite stretchy, 2 of which, however, are compact and sit under the hand, more or less a finger per fret. And those are the ones we're going to look at because they're the most useful ones in this scenario. So if I start with A7 as usual, I've got the G there under my first finger, and then the root, the A, will be under my third, and then the second finger will have the C sharp, the major third, on there on the fourth, and then the fifth there with my little finger. Note the tritone as ever, okay? And those you can just run through the octaves, so. Like that. Now, as we know, if you've been watching in the previous videos, of course you have, the tritone drops down when it changes from A7 to D7, like that. So that puts us in the perfect position to play the next nearest D7 arpeggio, which again just sits under the hand with very minimal movement. So from here, I'm starting on the third, F sharp on the second fret with my first finger, and I go 1-4, and then 2-4 will give me C and D. Like that. And you can see the tritones connecting up again. And that's probably a good way to start practicing them in the different octaves. And again, you can then string them together into longer runs. Like that. Now, generally speaking, in this context, you're not going to want to do big, long runs through the octaves like that, because it'll tend to sound a bit classical, a bit sort of, violin exercisey, and that's not really what we want. What we are going to do is use them as the starting point, the basis for more chromatic-y, bluesy sounding lines, and once again, join them up with the minor pentatonic shapes around the neck. And that's what comes next. Stick around. So if we've got 2 different arpeggio shapes or inversions that we're using to play the one type of chord, A7 to D7, that means there's 2 possible ways round we can string them together. So previously I started on the 7th of the A7th, and that gave me the tritone G, C sharp. Now we can do it the opposite way around. So if we move up to the 9th fret, we can start there, we can go 1-4, 2-4, and that gives us A7 starting on the major third. Once again, there's the tritone. Cool. Now, same thing happens. We move that down to there, and we can then play the D7 arpeggio by going 1, 3, 2, 4. All under your hand, really quite comfortably and readily accessible. So then, yeah, we can go from one to the other. Like that. So these dominant 7th arpeggios can serve as frameworks within which to introduce the blues notes, or these chromatic passing notes. So let's just look at a few options here. So I'm going to start with the A7th, with the 7th, root, 3rd, 5th shape. So A7 here, G to A, C sharp, E. So the first one you can throw in is the minor third. Again, we've looked at that in previous episodes. And then also, you've got the passing note between the G and the A. So that's one option. You can also fill in the gap between the third and the fifth, and you get things like the flat five. Like so. Now, if we go to the opposite shape round, we can do this sort of thing. So F sharp, A, C, D. You can do the passing note between the C and the D, this is the seventh, and the root. So, all of those as well. Now, you don't want to use them all the time. I mean, after a point, it starts to sound more like jazz than it will blues, particularly if you're not playing them as bend notes. So they're just options used with care. Now, one thing you can do is kind of slip slide between two inversions of the same chord, as I was doing there, I suspect. So, for instance, A7. Like that. Yeah. And then for the D7. So this brings us to another concept you can use here. Now, the dominant seventh chord is the 5 chord. A third above it is the 7 chord, which is the minor 7 flat 5, and you can utilize that also. And there's a handy bit of fretboard symmetry at play here. So you can do this. Here's A7 up here. Sorry, that wasn't. I'm not used to a Telecaster. So there's A7. Now, if we think about this in terms of the fretboard shapes, we've got a minor third and a tone. So we can play that in the first octave. Now, as we go across, we can flip it to the other way around. So our first finger can do a tone to B to C sharp, and then our first and fourth can do the minor third. So we've kind of inverted the shape to another arpeggio, which is harmonically related to the first, and will sound as an extension of it with some added colour. Now, that leads us to some really nice stuff you can do. Like so. And I was doing a similar thing down here on the D7. Now we've got the tuning break here, so it's going to go up a fret, but and that's quite nice because, as I say, that gets us back to our minor pentatonic position. And I think you can see there that I'm sort of mixing and matching as I go along, and that's the key to it, really. As I say, you don't really want to be playing big, long arpeggio runs most of the time, if at all, and what you do want to be doing is using them as a way of connecting up to other stuff. So up here we can do sort of A7, our minor 7 flat 5 relative to it. And then we've got a little bit of minor pentatonic. Like that. So go nuts, just see where all connections are. You can work through sort of one minor pentatonic position, say here. And join it to the dominant 7th arpeggios. So here's a short improvisation utilising those arpeggio shapes and all the chromatic notes available therein. Enjoy. Right, that's it for episode 4 of Stop Bluesing All Wrong. Hope you got something out of that. If you haven't already, go back and check out the previous 3 episodes. There will be a 5th episode on the turnaround that has not been addressed yet so far. And as always, please click subscribe. It costs you nothing but does me immense good. And like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in episode 5.